Just give it 1 minute, just till it comes to on time. I don't want to go. Okay, now it's 7. All right. Okay. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So welcome everyone to our study of Bhagavad Gita at the level of Bhakti Sastri. And today we're going to go on to lesson number 3 for this section. And we'll be looking at chapter number 8 of the Bhagavad Gita. So is everyone able to see the slideshow?
Yes. Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, good.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so here we look at the aims of this lesson. At the end of the class, we hope you can explain the process of Yoga Mishra Bhakti, which is described here in this 8th chapter. We'll hear about Yoga Mishra Bhakti, devotion mixed with mystic yoga. And then we will also hear about the comparison between the chanting of Hare Krishna and the chanting of Om. A statement that a pure devotee can live anywhere and create the Vrindavan atmosphere by his devotional service, and how this reflects Prabhupada's mood. We want to also compare the material and spiritual world based on the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verses 15 to 22. And then finally, we want to explain how a pure devotee's passage to the spiritual world is guaranteed by devotional service based on the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8. All right, so those are the different points we want to cover in the course of this lesson. So the chapter begins. At the end of chapter 7, Lord Krishna had used some terms which Arjuna was not familiar with. So the chapter begins with Arjuna's questions. All right? You can see here the different questions which Arjuna had. First of all, what is Brahman? What is Brahman? Is it the body, or is it the soul, or is it God? What is it? And then what is the self? The self could also be the body, could be the mind, could be the soul. What are fruitive activities? In other words, karma. And what is this material manifestation? What are the demigods? Who is the Lord of sacrifice? How does he live in the body? How can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So this final question, this is actually the real substance of this chapter, this 8th chapter. This is the most important point for us to learn from this chapter. How can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So Lord Krishna begins the 8th chapter by answering these different questions, just as Arjuna asked them in order. So Lord Krishna replied to them. And you can look through the chapter and you will see how in the text the questions are all answered one after another. Just give me a minute here. So Lord Krishna's answers begin in text number 3. We can see Lord Krishna's reply, describing what is Brahman, that the living entity is Brahman, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is Brahman. And then the self, his eternal nature, is called Adhyatma. Action pertaining to the development of material bodies is karma, fruitive activity. Everything which relates to the development of the material body. The development of the body and the destruction of the body, it all comes about by karma. Our activities, our fruitive activities. Some acts we do help to develop the body, and other acts will destroy the body. And just like people eating meat and smoking and drinking, they destroy the body, bring about their own destruction. Other people, they will do different things to maintain the body, they will do exercises and so on, physical fitness, they're concerned with their health. And so this is all karma. And then, what is this material manifestation? This is going on to text number 4, the material manifestation. The physical nature, which is constantly changing, is Adibhuta, the material manifestation. So Krishna used these terms like Adidaiva, Adibhuta, Adiatma. So Arjuna wanted to know what is the meaning behind them, and Krishna's explaining them one after another. What are the demigods? Krishna simply said, the universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, is Adidaiva. Adidaiva, the devas, the demigods. And then, who is the Lord of sacrifice? Krishna says, I, the Supreme Lord, the super soul in the heart of every living entity, I am called Adi Yagna, so the Lord of sacrifice. These different terms are all explained. Just simply explain very briefly. And then, how does he live in the body? And then the eighth question, which is most important. How can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So Krishna begins speaking about quitting the body, and at the time of leaving the body, if one is able to remember Lord Krishna at the time of death, then he can attain to Lord Krishna's abode. But then, of course, Lord Krishna understands not everybody is going to remember him at the time of death. And then he speaks the verse which is more commonly quoted, that whatever we remember at the time of death, then we will attain that state without fail. And so we get the results of our actions, both mental and physical. If within our mind we're thinking about our dog at the time of death, then next life we may become the dog. We have to be very cautious what we're thinking. Just now I was just giving class to the devotees in Russia, and they're asking me, they said, you know, every day we look on the news and we're always concerned what's happening in the war between Ukraine and Russia. And so if we're thinking like that all the time, and if we die in that kind of consciousness, then definitely we'll come back again. We'll take birth again in Russia or Ukraine. Of course, there's no guarantee that we'll get the human body. We may come back in the dog body, or we may come back even as a tree. Everything will depend. Karmana daiva naitrena jantor deho papajati. It depends on our karma and the will of the Supreme Lord. So we want to be very conscious of what we do in our life, because at the time of death, what we're thinking at the time of death, that will be the resultant of what we've been thinking throughout our life. Sometimes when people hear the story about Ajamila, how he chanted the name of his son Narayan at the time of death, so some people think that, oh, okay, I'll just wait till the time of death and then I'll chant. At the time of death, I'll chant Narayan. But if you have not had the habit to do it throughout your life, you won't be able to do it at the time of death. That is the foolishness of materialistic-minded people. They think they can cheat. And sometimes people even think they can put some tulsi mala around their neck at the time of death. Do they think that will save them from going to Yamaloka? Well, they will be lucky if they can keep it around their neck at the time of death. Not everyone is able to keep tulsi around their neck at the time of leaving the body. However, the scriptures do tell us that if at the time of death one is not able to remember Krishna, Krishna will remember the devotee. So we want to become devoted in this life. And then at the time of death, whether we have the opportunity or not to remember the Lord will remember us. And so we're dependent on the mercy of the Lord to deliver us at the time of death. And that's described later on. Krishna said, I am the swift deliverer from birth and death. Krishna delivers the devotee. We don't do it. Krishna himself comes and picks us up out of this ocean of material existence. So we have to dedicate ourselves. In our life, we have to develop our consciousness of Krishna. And at the time of leaving the body, then that will protect us from any inauspiciousness. All right, so here's the key verse from the 8th chapter, verse number 5. Antakale, at the time of death. And then smaran mukva, whatever we remember at that time. At the end of the life, quits his body, remembering me alone. Then at once attains my nature, madbhavam, ya prayati samadbhavam, yati nas yatra samshayaha. There's no doubt of this. But smaran mukva kalevaram, and antakale, at that time of leaving the body. So at the time of leaving the body, Srila Prabhupada explains in purports in Srimad Bhagavatam that everyone will be fearful at the time of leaving the body. It's not such an easy thing that we can just stand on the head of death personified as we give up the body. At the time of leaving the body, certainly we will be fearful. Devotee, of course, the fear is not going to be very much because he's sure of the protection of Krishna. But for the materialistic-minded people, of course, they will be very fearful at the time of quitting the body. So we want to be very cautious. We want to prepare ourselves, practicing throughout our life. We want to do regular sadhana, hearing, and chanting, and in this way we can prepare ourselves for this, the time. Like we say, this time of leaving the body, this is like the final exam. In the course of our life, we had many exams. You had school exams, then you had college exams, then you have the driving exam, and maybe you go for jobs, they may give you an examination, and like that. And so but the real exam, the real test comes at the end of life. And at the end of life, we have to be able to fix our mind on Lord Krishna. Here's a quotation from Srila Prabhupada from a lecture given in Geneva in 1974, based on text number 7. Text number 7. That's actually the next verse. We're Yam Yam Vapi Smaram Vavam, that was text number 6. And then text number 7 is Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudyacha Maya Arpita Mano Buddhir Mam Evaishyasi Asamshayaha. Krishna is telling Arjuna, text number 7. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me, and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So this is a very nice verse also, right? Krishna is saying that first you should think of him. You should always think of him. And think of him how? In the form of Krishna. Now someone may think of Krishna as the cowherd boy, and someone else may think of Krishna as the charioteer of Arjuna. Someone else may think of Krishna as the wife of Rukmini. Whatever way, different devotees are attracted to think of Krishna in different ways. But we should always think of Krishna. And at the same time, carry out our prescribed duty. And Arjuna's duty? Fighting. So it's interesting how Lord Krishna instructs Arjuna in this way, that the first business is to fix the mind on Krishna, on the form of Krishna. And then our business is to do our duty, whatever, according to our varna and ashrams. We have different prescribed duties. So we should do these duties. But the first business, fix the mind on Krishna. And then activities dedicated to Krishna, mind and intelligence fixed on him, then we will come to Krishna. Very similar, we see this also in Srimad Bhagavatam, relation to the great devotee king, Maharaj Ambarish. Maharaj Ambarish was engaged in so many different activities in the service of Lord Krishna. But the very first thing he did, Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayor Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanavarne. First of all, he began fixing his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Padara Vindayor. Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayor. So his mind was fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. And then he went on, Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayor Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanavarnane. He was speaking the glories of Vaikuntha and the spiritual world and the glories of Lord Krishna. But the first business, the mind must be properly situated. Fix the mind on Krishna. And of course we practice like this in Krishna consciousness. Our business is to chant the holy name. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us that the easiest way to remember Krishna and to fix the mind on Krishna is by chanting the holy name of Krishna. So it's very important for us. All right, so now I'll read Prabhupada's quote. This is the ultimate goal of Krishna consciousness, that antakale, at the time of death, at the end of life, antakale chamam eva, certainly, smaram, you will remember Krishna. Deity worship is especially meant for this purpose, so that you go on worshipping the deity of Radha and Krishna. And then you'll be able to think of Radha Krishna always within your heart. This practice is needed. So Prabhupada says practice, right? This practice is needed. We practice remembering Krishna. First of all, remember Krishna, and then the deity worship. Before we go to worship the deity, we should also purify our existence by reciting different prayers. Just like the one we generally recite, that I am not a Brahmin or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Sudra. I am not a Brahmachari or a Grihastha or a Vanaprastha or a Sannyasi. But I am simply the servant of the servant, many times the servant of that one Supreme Lord who fulfills all the desires of the gopis of Braja. So that is one prayer which we often recite before worshipping the deity. The idea is to bring our consciousness to think of Krishna, to take shelter of Krishna. And of course, before worshipping, we offer our respects to the spiritual master, worshipping the spiritual master, offering obeisances to the guru, reciting pranam mantras and like that. And then that enables us to approach Krishna. So we may worship Radha and Krishna. It's practice. We're practicing thinking of Krishna within the heart. So like this, Lord Krishna is describing how we can prepare ourselves for the end of life. We cannot expect that at the end of life we can just suddenly think of Krishna. We have to practice throughout life. Okay, so a little exercise for you on this matter. How many people are here this morning in the class?
Guru Maharaj.
Okay,
Maharaj.
16. So that means 8 pairs, right? Each one, can we have make partners? And here's the question we want you to discuss. Sometimes devotees say, my devotional service is so difficult. I am unwell and I have so many problems. I wish Krishna would just take me right now. What would you say to such a devotee? What can you say about his or her attitude? So we'll give you 3 minutes or 5 minutes just to discuss this with a partner.
Yeah, Guru Maharaj, I've just chatted the question in so that we can still see it while we are in the breakout rooms.
Okay.
Yeah. So in total, it will be 8 different groups, right, Guru Maharaj?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so 3 minutes.
Okay.
Converse number, which room are you?
I'm going to be in room 8.
Okay.
Okay, Guru Maharaj, I'm going to stop the room now.
Okay.
So they will progressively come back into the main room.
Uh-huh. You just give them a minute to get back.
Yes, 45 more seconds. Okay, Guru Maharaj, everyone is back.
Okay. Maybe I could hear from Dr. Guru Smarana Mataji.
Yes, I would say have faith in Guru Krishna, keep chanting, keep hearing Krishna Katha, and not to lose hope. Death is not in our hands. When it will come, it will come. And maybe have some devotees perform kirtans throughout the day and night if possible. And Prabhu said, remember the form of Lord Krishna and Guru. And also probably remind of the services the devotee was performing before being unwell to do any active service. So probably just trying to remember in case was doing book distribution or deity worship or prasad distribution or something. Then that could inspire him, that remember how he met some life experiences. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So you encourage the devotee to just to be more tolerant and patient and reflect on what service they've done in the past, huh?
Yes.
Appreciating, remembering their devotional activities. It's like in the Ishopanishad, they say, remember all my past activities.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Maharaji.
Thank you.
Yes, would someone else like to volunteer? Tell us what you discussed.
Maharaj. So to begin with, it is talking about the Bhautika Dunya, means which is full of, the world is full of difficulties and everyone is going to be unwell and everyone have difficulties and all the problems. There is no one who is without a problem in this world, because the nature of the world itself is Dukkalayam. We are going to be full of sadness and difficulties. We are surrounded by difficulties due to our own karma. So instead of seeing the negative aspect of it, if we just cling on to the positive aspect, use whatever we do and leave the results with the Lord and not get attached to the total results, then we will not see the problems as problems. So whatever problems we are put in, we see it as the Lord's mercy to surrender unto the Lord. So, and this attitude of, careless attitude of wanting to right away go is just an escapism. You know, you don't want to put any efforts towards taking a step to the Lord. I just want to go. I wish the Lord just calls me and I remember Him and go away. Is a very bad attitude, in the sense that we should take steps, purify ourselves first. So only a pure devotee is allowed to enter into the abode. So
anyways, thinking about the problems will anyways not help in going back to Krishna. So the problem is thinking about, solution is thinking about Krishna rather than thinking about the problems. So it is an escapism attitude, and for bringing up our enthusiasm, the Uttaha, Nishya, Dharya, Karma, Pravartana. So association and building our enthusiasm is more important at this stage, to overcome this and then focus on Krishna.
Yeah, make ourselves purified, make ourselves qualified, and then you think about going back to Krishna.
Okay, this is interesting. Okay, you're quite heavy on them. You're telling them you're just being an escapist. You shouldn't think like this. You have to be stronger, control your mind. Right? Okay, now we have one more question here. This is the next question. Should we desire, like Kulashekar, to die now? Whatever we do in life will be tested at the time of death. If death came today, would you say you are ready? Is suicide a means to attain Krishna? What happens to a devotee who commits suicide? So there's several questions here in this next question, with many sub-questions. This example of Maharaj Kulashekar is given because the verse is quoted, often quoted by Prabhupada. Maharaj Kulashekar, famous verse, Krishna tvadiya padapankaja panjarantam adjaiva me vishatu manasaraja hamsa prana prayana kappaye kappavatapitaye kantavaro dhanavado smaranam nakaste. Maharaj Kulashekar was one of the Alwars in the Tamil tradition there, the saints in South India. And he was actually a great devotee of Lord Rama, but this prayer is offered to Krishna, that let me die now when I can chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. Because Maharaj Kulashekar said, if I have to wait till I die, naturally my throat will be choked up with mucus and I may not be able to chant. So Maharaj Kulashekar prayed, let me die now while I can still chant with feeling. So should we also desire like this? Is it proper for us as devotees?
Yes.
Yes, Maharaj. It is best for us.
I want you to discuss with your partner. You discuss with your partners, and then we're going to hear. We'll take feedback from you. So there are several questions. We want to know about, should we desire like Maharaj Kulashekar? And if we die today, are you ready? Are you all ready to die? And what about, no, don't answer that. You make a note. Is suicide a means to get Krishna? And what happens to a devotee who commits suicide? So you discuss these questions and we'll hear from you. We'll give you 5 minutes because there's several questions there. We'll give you 5 minutes to discuss these questions.
Okay, Maharaj.
I don't know if you get the same partner again, maybe not.
Yes, the same. I can put the same partners again, Guru Maharaj. Is it okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. We'll start the rooms now. Amar Niman? Amar Niman? Maharaj, I'm bringing everyone back.
Okay.
Guru Maharaj, for the earlier question, incidentally, what we learn in coaching is to meet the person where that person is, and to hear and to form a relationship without being judgmental, etc. And then, I think it was an interesting point which Ras Bihari Prabhu and Supremi Mataji brought out about karma, etc. But I don't know, I personally feel that in any situation, the use of the word karma is very, very, very sensitive, and I've been taught not to use those words. It's not showcasing empathy.
Yes.
So in devotee coaching program which I'm doing with Dira Govinda, so he keeps on emphasizing those kinds of points that you need to meet that person where that person is, really understand psychology, show empathy, etc. And then once you forge that relationship, that's where you bring it to the next level as an advisor. But try to get him to answer those questions himself.
Well, that is really the art of counseling, isn't it? You're talking about actually counseling someone.
I think most of them are back, Guru Maharaj.
Okay.
Oh no, I think it was not closed.
Sorry?
Oh no. Somehow the room was not closed. Just give them a few more seconds, Guru Maharaj. They are not back now. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I agree with you. The word karma is very sensitive. There was the one time the manager of the English football team described that he used the word karma. He said handicapped people, it's their karma. And it became an outrage. So many people got so upset. And he got sacked from his job because of his views, because he spoke about karma. These people are suffering because of their karma. He got sacked because they said, you speak like this, it's very terrible.
Guru Maharaj, I'm reminded of this incident in Malaysia where, a non-devotee family lost their 17-year-old son to a motorcycle accident. And someone had recommended that, the devotees go and speak to the family during the funeral, do a short class kirtan. And the devotee who was doing the kirtan, he was so, insensitive to what has happened, and he spoke about karma. Oh, it's the parents' karma, it's the child's karma. And he was chased out from the funeral. So this is like the 101 of counseling and empathy, which a lot of devotees need to be very, very sensitive about.
Yeah, it's a good point, Padmalochan Prabhu. It's good you bring this up. Well, maybe I should mention that before we begin. Is everyone back now?
Yes.
Okay, just to go back to, the previous question, that we were talking about how to deal with such a person. My devotional service is so difficult, I'm not well, I have so many problems. And so you can't just simply turn to them and say, well, it's your karma, Prabhu. That's not quite the way to cultivate people in these kind of situations.
Devotees don't suffer karma, isn't it, Maharaj?
Well, that's also true, but there's always residual actions of karma. There is some karma, residual actions waiting to be removed. There's always traces of karma there. if you're fully surrendered to Krishna, if you're fully given up everything to take shelter of Krishna, then you could say no karma. But most of us, we do have some karmic reaction, some residual karma there. And so, if we simply turn to people and say, this is your karma, you're suffering, this is your karma, it's your own fault, that's not very, and it's not showing the real empathy which is required in dealing with that kind of situation. So Padmalochan brought this point up just now. He was saying, because Padmalochan and his wife Renuka, they do some work with people who are leaving the bodies soon, cancer cases and so on. And so you have to be very careful how we speak to people. You don't want to disturb their minds overly. You simply tell them this is your karma. No, we have to develop a relationship with the person. And they have to develop some trust in you. But if you simply turn on them and tell them it's your karma, they'll hate you. People will hate you for it. So be very careful, be very sensitive in this kind of situation. Counseling people and dealing with people and when they're having these kind of difficulties, we have to be very, very sympathetic and willing to hear them and allow them to develop trust. Don't just simply turn and say it's your own fault, it's your karma.
There are two hands raised, Guru Maharaj. One is from Ras Bihari Prabhu and the other from the Danidi Prabhu.
Oh.
Ras Bihari Prabhu.
Yes.
Yeah, it is made for our understanding that we understand that material world is full of problems. We don't exactly put across the same words to them. Definitely we should be more talking in a more empathetic way towards them.
Yes.
First, we have to understand what their attitude is right or wrong. First, we understand the situation and then definitely we should talk in a more empathetic way.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Yes.
Maharaj, actually, a devotee does not suffer for karmic reaction. Actually, he suffers for only aparadha or even offense in the neglecting devotional service. This is the comment given by the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So we should consult the devotee that you just pray and remember Krishna 24 hours.
Yes, well, we say devotee doesn't suffer karma, but we say cleanses the heart almost to nil. Almost to nil. They say that there's some traces of karma there. And Prabhupada gives the example about the fan. The fan doesn't immediately come to a halt. When we turn off the fan, there's still some momentum there. And similarly also devotee coming to Krishna consciousness, we do have some karma. So how much we've really, you say Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says devotee doesn't have karma. Yes, a pure devotee. If you're completely fixed in Krishna consciousness, if you're really a pure devotee, very strictly following everything, then no karma. But how many devotees are in that category? It's not such an easy thing to say that devotees don't have any karma. So I'd be a little cautious about that. But at the same time, we don't like to tell people it's their karma. You don't want to do that either. So we have to be careful. All right, let's go on to this question. So should we desire, like Kulashekar, to die now? How do you answer that?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu?
Yes.
You say yes, we should desire. Like,
Yes.
oh, really? Okay. You're going to desire to die now. And so what are you going to do? Are you going to sit down and just wait for death? How do we go about it? You have the desire to die now, like Kulashekar. So how are you going to manifest that desire? What are you going to do?
Just remembering Krishna 24 hours.
Are you going to quit the job? You're still going to go to work?
To serve Krishna.
You're going to serve Krishna. Yes. Okay. So you're ready. Anyway, I could agree with you in the sense that we should be ready to die at any moment. At any moment, death can come. That's the nature of this world. This world is mrityu loka. At any moment, death can come. So we should be prepared for that when it comes. It shouldn't be a great shock to us or a great surprise. It's the nature of this world. And so then, if death came today, would you say you're ready? You obviously must think you're ready. You want to die like Kulashekar. You're ready to die now. So you're ready, huh? You're fully ready to leave the world.
Maharaj,
Yes?
I would like to add one thing.
Well, I'm asking you first. Are you ready to die now?
No.
Are you ready?
No.
No, you're not ready. Okay. All right.
No, Maharaj.
I'm ready.
All right. All right. So what's your question?
No, and I'm just telling that natural death is okay, but not committing suicide. Because Krishna is telling Bhagavad, suicide is not a thing. He's telling natural is okay.
Guru Maharaj has not come to that part yet, Prabhuji.
Maharaj, in the past question, are you ready to die at present moment?
Maharaj Kulashekara was a pure devotee, and Lord Rama saved him from the ocean when he was wanting to go and fight for bringing back Sita in that mood. When he was there, he entered this ocean to bring back Mother Sita. So Lord himself brought him back. So we have not done that mission, at least. That's what my thought is, our thought is.
There is one
A few hand raises, Renuka Devidasi, Guru Smarna Mataji and Yashoda Mataji. Can I request you to unmute yourself?
All right. Let's take them one by one.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
We desire like Guru Shekhar. Maharaj, I cannot desire because I am not at his Maharaj Guru Putra's level yet. My sadhana and my devotion is still very attached to material, and I'm not qualified yet. I can say that I am not ready to die because I'm still very attached to material, family, and my devotional is not very pure. So if that comes today, I will say sorry, I'm not ready.
Okay, that's good. Well, I think that's realistic. I think most of us are not really ready yet. We need more time.
Yeah, I'm not ready yet, Maharaj.
Okay.
Yashoda Mataji?
Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Hare Krishna everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Maharaj, I would say that it is not right that we die now because we have, as devotees, we have higher responsibilities. We have to give Krishna to others, we have to preach. So it's not correct that we practice our devotional service for ourselves, not thinking of others. So we should continue to live to give Krishna to others.
Okay, very nice.
Like Srila Prabhupada did.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Guru Smarna Mataji?
Hare Krishna Maharaj and everyone. Yes, the first question, no, I don't want to die like Kulashekar, because once we surrender to Krishna, then this body is not mine. So whenever the death will come, we should be ready for that. But we shouldn't desire. Till we are leaving, we should desire to eagerly serve Guru Krishna. And my partner Kumar Deep also feels the same. He wants to take initiation and serve his Guru and help him spread the Krishna conscious movement. So as far as death is concerned, when it will come, then we should remember Guru Krishna. And even if we don't remember, then as Maharaj said, Krishna will remember us. So we should depend on Krishna and Guru's mercy.
Yeah.
And Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
very good. All right. What about?
Guru Maharaj, just take Rukmani Mohan Prabhu's last point and then.
Okay.
Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, for the first one, should we desire like Kurukshekhar to die now? And what should we be doing and activities we should be doing? So I think we discussed this in this text 7, where we should always be thinking of Krishna and at the same time carry out our duties, prescribed duties. But we should dedicate our activities to Lord Krishna, and we should dedicate our mind and intelligence to Him.
Yes, very nice. Yes, and then we're ready to die, right? If you're working like that, if the mind's attached to Krishna and you're performing your duty, then there's no reason to fear anything. If death does come, we can of course we cannot argue, we cannot tell the Yamaduras, I'm not ready. When death comes, we have to go. Yes?
Maharaj, I have a point to add. First of all, what should we desire? Our desire should be to surrender to Krishna and do devotional service unto Him. So desiring death is not in our hands. So what should we desire is one key thing to be thought about. And the second thing is, I've always heard in lectures that life is a preparation and death is your examination. So have we prepared yet to take the test? Can we really think of Krishna? I would like to tell one short incident which happened in a devotee's life. So this particular devotee, I heard in a lecture by Gaurang Prabhu that this particular devotee used to take his chanting bag and go under the buildings where construction work used to take place, and he would think, if I die now, I'm chanting, I will go back to Krishna. So he will try to bring in death by making some funny attempts like this, and he didn't die in any of the situations. So one particular day he was taking a bath in the Ganges or something with devotees, and suddenly he was pulled by the waters and he was choked and somehow devotees saved him and brought him back, and they asked him, did you remember Krishna when you were getting choked? He was like, no. Then he realized what he did was like, it was actually trying to make attempts to die should not be done. Means, are we ready yet? So he kind of realized that he was not ready yet. So I would just like to end with that.
Yes, well, this is true. Actually, even many senior devotees even have that experience, Sometimes maybe when they're having a very, very difficult time with their physical health, and may even be maybe some heart attack or something like that, it's not easy to suddenly remember Krishna. But they do have the fact, is to their credit, that they've dedicated their life to Krishna. And so even though the situation may arise that they're not able to remember Krishna, but still Krishna does not forget them. That's very important to remember. Because they've given their life to Krishna, and so at the end of life, Krishna remembers them. All right, death comes today. We're not really ready. We do need more. We want to take every opportunity to prepare ourselves. As Mataji said, life is preparation and death is the examination. So we have the preparation is very important before we have the exam. We do want to prepare ourselves. And so is suicide a means to attain Krishna? Certainly not, right? There are examples in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sanatana Goswami wanted to commit suicide, Raghunath Das Goswami wanted to commit suicide, Murari Gupta wanted to commit suicide. None of them were allowed. They were told, it's not for devotees, shouldn't do that. So what happens to a devotee who does commit suicide? What will happen to him?
It never clears the body.
Huh?
He never gets a material body.
Yeah.
He suffers. He suffers throughout the time. But by mercy of, if he contacts with the ghost of Lord Shivaji, then he may get a chance to get another body.
Yes. There was one devotee, there was a brahmachari actually, he was in Vrindavan. And so he was an American devotee, and he had mental problems. So one day he walked into the Radharani Express. The Radharani Express, it's a train there running between Mathura and Vrindavan. So he walked into that train and died. And so the devotees asked a very senior Vaishnava devotee, will he go back to Godhead? But the devotee, the very senior Vaishnava, he said, you don't go back to Godhead just by committing suicide. Even though you may die in the holy Dham and you may die like that, but you won't go back to Godhead. So anyway, what happens to them is really up to Krishna. They may get the opportunity. Anyway, whatever service they've done is to their credit, and they will go on from that point. Of course, you commit suicide, you're abusing the body which is given to you by Krishna. So it's not good. The body is given to you by the grace of Krishna, we have to use it. Okay, any final questions on this before we go on?
Maharaj, I have one question to ask. Actually, the question is, Krishna is telling, if a person remembers me at the time of death, he will attain my nature. Here nature means his dham, or he will get a body like Krishna, or what is the real thing then?
Well, it's up to Krishna. It will depend on the spiritual advancement of that devotee. He will get what he deserves.
Okay.
According to his qualification. Lord Krishna knows, you know. Somehow they've died in a situation where they were not actually able to remember Krishna. But if they did a lifetime of service, then certainly at the end of the life, then Krishna will make some arrangement to deliver that devotee. We shouldn't doubt that. Certainly Lord Krishna will take care of his devotee. Okay, any other question?
Maharaj, this way, if we don't remember Krishna, but if we remember our Guru, do we get the same result?
Yes, because Guru is representative of Krishna. The Guru is representative of Krishna. So, of course, remembering Guru means also follow the Guru's instructions. You should be obedient to the Guru, follow the teachings. Yes, Guru is representative of Krishna. So the Guru can also deliver you to Krishna.
Maharaj, just one point here. We anyway, whenever we meditated, we surrender ourselves to the Lord as well as our body also does not belong to. Suicide is not under our purview.
I'm sorry, Prabhu, your voice is not very clear.
I was saying our body does not belong to us. It belongs to our spiritual master and the Lord. With our initiation that we took, we have surrendered ourselves to the spiritual master.
Yes, right. So the body doesn't belong to us. So
suicide is not under our purview anymore.
So we have no right to kill it, right? We have no right to destroy it. That's your point, huh? Yes? Yes, good point. Body does not belong to us. The body belongs to Guru and Krishna. Okay, very nice. All right? Any other points? We'll go ahead. Let's see. Oh, a quote from Srila Prabhupada. Text number, that's based on chapter 8, text number 7. So Prabhupada said, so work is there. Just like Arjuna. Arjuna is fighting. That is also Krishna consciousness. Mam anusmara yajyacha. Krishna said, you chant, you remember me. At the same time, fight. He never said that simply fight or simply chant, because in the material world that is not possible. Therefore, chanting must be there, but at the same time, you have to work how to continue this movement. The movement requires energy. Prabhupada lecturing in Hawaii to the devotees in Hawaii, February 1975. So Prabhupada understood something of the mood, the devotees in Hawaii. You know, Hawaii is a heavenly place. And so the devotees didn't have, so much energy to go on and do a lot of but Prabhupada's encouraging them. Don't just simply sit back and chant. You must also fight. Chanting must be there. Same time, you have to work to continue this movement. And then this is a quote from Prabhupada's purport, or text number 9. Yoga practice is meditation on the Supersoul. So this is text number 9. That's the next verse. Actually, we didn't go into that yet. Text number 9, Lord Krishna was describing... Oh, just a minute. Oh, that's... Yeah, text number 9. One who meditates on the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything. So text number 9, Krishna is describing 10 different ways in which we could remember Krishna. Because in text number 8, he spoke about remembering Krishna. The goal is to remember Krishna. So how to remember Krishna? So Krishna spoke text number 9, and he gave 10 different items by which we could meditate on Krishna. One who knows Krishna as everything, as he was the oldest, the controller, smaller than the smallest, maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material, like that, who's beyond all material conceptions, who's inconceivable, is always a person. He's luminous like the sun, transcendental beyond this material nature. This way Krishna describes 10 different ways in which we can remember Krishna. We can take any one of them, or you can take all 10. But we have to remember Krishna. So Prabhupada's purport, yoga practice is meditation on the Supersoul within. Similarly, by chanting Hare Krishna, we fix our mind always on the Supreme Lord. The mind is fickle, and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. One example often given is that of the caterpillar that thinks of becoming a butterfly, and so is transformed into a butterfly in the same life. Similarly, if we constantly think of Krishna, it is certain that at the end of our lives, we shall have the same bodily constitution as Krishna. So the mind is restless. Chanchalahi mana Krishna. How to control the mind. Arjuna was telling Krishna, I can't control the mind, I can't do this yoga. Did Krishna agree? Did Krishna say, oh, yeah, I know it's too difficult, you can't do it? No, Krishna said, I know it's difficult. Asamshayam mahabaho mano durniglahamcha abhyasena chukontiya vairagyena chagriyat. Krishna told Arjuna, I know it's difficult, it's not easy, but it's possible by constant practice and by detachment. So the problem is we're attached. We have to let go of this material attachment. We have to change the attachment and become attached to Krishna. So Prabhupada was speaking here, he said, the mind is fickle. It's necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. Force the mind to think of Krishna. The mind will resist in the beginning, but gradually it will develop the taste for remembering Krishna. And Prabhupada gave this nice example about the caterpillar, how it became a butterfly. So if we constantly think of Krishna, we can also become like Krishna. We can go back to the spiritual world. All right, so it's text number 8 and 9, about remembering Krishna and how to remember Krishna. And then Lord Krishna then goes on in his Bhagavad Gita. We go on to text number 10. About Krishna is going to describe this Yoga Mishra Bhakti. And he's speaking again at the time of death. How we could use yoga to fix the mind on Krishna. Here's the quote from Prabhupada's purport. Well, this is from this quote is from the 7th chapter. So those who are engaged in worshipping the form or archa of the Lord, or who are engaged in meditation on the Lord, simply for liberation from material bondage, also know by the grace of the Lord the purports of Brahman, Adibhuta, etc. So this is Yoga Mishra Bhakti, because we're thinking about liberation. We're not just thinking about devotion to Krishna. It's not pure devotion. It's devotion mixed with yoga. The yogi is thinking about his own liberation, to get free from the material world. So how is he going to do it? So Lord Krishna describes in text number 10, I'll read the verse, one who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows, and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, the devotee, he's talking about, Lord Krishna is saying, with full devotion, thinking of the Lord, but he's thinking about his own liberation. His motive is to get liberation. So it's Yoga Mishra Bhakti. It's not pure devotion. And then it continues here. This is a quote from the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because in text number 11, then Krishna goes on to describe more about this Yoga Mishra Bhakti, and he describes that persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you the process by which one may attain salvation. So Lord Krishna spoke about uttering Omkara. And great sages in Brahman. So like this you can see this is a mechanical process. We have the quote here from the second canto, first chapter, text number 17. Prabhupada describes about chanting Om. He said chanting Om is transcendental but mechanical way of getting into trance. Persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form or name of the Lord because of imperfect senses are trained to the practice of self-realization. By this mechanical process of regulating the breathing and simultaneously repeating Om within the mind. So, chanting of Om, as Prabhupada describes, it's possible, but it's very difficult. Very difficult. And Prabhupada mentions who can do it. Is it persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form? They're unable to chant the name of the Lord or to worship the form of the Lord. Then they may be trained in this mechanical process of yoga, controlling the breathing and repeating Om within the mind. If we think it's difficult to chant Hare Krishna, it's much more difficult to chant Om. How long do you think you can chant Om for? Of course, sometimes we get people to chant Om. Sometimes, we go to yoga studios. I had the experience one time. I was giving a lecture on yoga in a university. And in the university, some of the students had come for the lecture. One of them was a Christian. And they didn't like that I was teaching them to chant Hare Krishna. They complained, no, this is your religion. I have my own religion. I don't want your Hare Krishna religion. So this person said, they refused to chant Hare Krishna. Although I told them this is non-sectarian and I'm not trying to convert you or anything, I'm just introducing you to the technique of mantra meditation. But sometimes it makes it much easier for people if you introduce them to chant Om. They can accept Om, but they find it difficult to accept Hare Krishna. They're so prejudiced. They have so many prejudices. They don't want to accept Hare Krishna, but they will chant Om. But they may chant Om, they won't make spiritual progress. It takes a long time to make spiritual progress chanting Om. You have to be very fixed, very determined. It's a very difficult process. But Krishna's describing it. Here in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's describing this Yoga Mishra Bhakti. It's not easy, but Krishna's showing there are other ways, but very difficult ways. Bhakti is so much easier. It's so much practical than these other things. Text number 12, Lord Krishna describes, the yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses, fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. You can understand, it's really not an easy thing which is being described. But chanting Hare Krishna is very natural and very joyful. Immediately we can feel the effect. Immediately we feel transcendental pleasure. This other yoga process is going to take a long time. Text 13 continues. Situated in the yoga practice, vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination. If one thinks of the Supreme Lord, quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. Okay? So, this is the process, the yoga process, which is being described there in the 8th chapter. for some section, for a few verses. Here's a quote which we'll give you from a lecture by Prabhupada, lecturing on this 8th chapter, text number 12, which we were just reading. So, Sarva Dwarani. This system is called Pratyahara. In the technical language of yoga system, it is called Pratyahara. Pratyahara means just the opposite. Now my eyes are engaged in seeing worldly beauty. I have to retract from enjoying that beauty and must instead see inside the beauty. That is called Pratyahara. Similarly, I have to hear the Omkara sound from within. So all the senses are to be stopped in their external activities. That is the perfection of yoga. And concentrate the mind on Vishnu Murti. So in this way, Prabhupada is describing the Omkara. He describes it here. Hear the Omkara sound from within. And the senses have to be stopped externally. Very demanding process. But Krishna consciousness, chanting Hare Krishna mantra, very quickly, very easily. Another quote from Prabhupada, from a lecture given in New York on the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada said, so, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and Omkara, there is no difference. So far, the transcendental sound vibration is concerned. But the objective is different. By Omkara, one attains impersonal existence in the Brahmajyoti. And by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, one attains the spiritual body and is situated on the planets, in the spiritual planets. So very clearly Prabhupada has explained that will take you to impersonal Brahman. But chanting, where do you want to go? It's up to us to decide. Do we want to just simply go to the Brahman? Of course, there's no activity. Spiritual world. We want to experience the highest truth. So we have to understand how to achieve this process. All right? And then we have next, pure devotional service. We were speaking about karma mishra, yoga mishra bhakti, They were doing yoga to go to get liberation. But now Krishna, text 14, Krishna gives us a very important verse about pure devotional service. Ananya bhakti. And here is the verse. Ananya cheta. Ananya means uninterrupted devotion. Ananya cheta satatam yomam smarati nityasha tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yogina. For one who always remembers me. Again, remembering Krishna is mentioned, right? The mind, you have to remember Krishna without deviation. Ananya cheta satatam, constantly. Then, yomam smarati, smarati nitya, always remembering. Tasyaham sulabha partha. I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement. Nitya yuktasya yogina. Because he's constantly engaged in devotional service, so it's easy to attain Krishna. So this is the verse which Lord Krishna has given, superior to the Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Always remembering Krishna. And Krishna said, Sulabhapata, easy to obtain. A quote from Prabhupada from this verse, 8:14. The special qualification of the pure devotee is that he is always thinking of Krishna without deviation and without considering the time or place. There should be no impediments. He should be able to carry out his service anywhere and at any time. Some say that the devotee should remain in holy places like Vrindavan or some holy town where the Lord lived. But a pure devotee can live anywhere and create the atmosphere of Vrindavan by his devotional service. So this is something we want to consider. You know, those of you who are grihastas, living in your home, how do you create the atmosphere of Vrindavan there? Would you like, someone like to volunteer? Tell us. What have you done? Yes, Prabhu.
By keeping Tulsi Maharani.
Tulsi Maharani, okay. How many Tulsi Maharanis do you have?
2.
You have 2, okay. Anyway, it's a start. You keep Tulsi Maharani, certainly, that becomes Vrindavan. Alright? Keep Tulsi Maharani. Do you do Tulsi Puja every day?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, good.
Nidhi Prabhu?
Just serving Krishna, putting the deity or photo of Lord Krishna and Radharani and serving from morning to night.
Are you doing that?
And chanting of holy names, doing devotional service to Krishna.
Putting
the deity,
who is,
deity or the...
Are you doing that? Are you serving the deity day and night?
Yes, I am doing.
Oh, you don't have any job, huh?
I'm in job after job hours. Morning and evening time doing, and other times I'm doing chanting of holy names, putting devotional service when you are getting time.
What deity do you have?
Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani and the photographer Radha Sansundar. And Krishna Balaram and the Panchatattva, Narsingadev.
Oh. Many deities. Some photos.
Only deity is Jagannath Baldev Subhadra and
Okay.
Yes. Changing dress every day.
Good.
Doing archana.
Do you have the day dress and the night dress?
Night dress.
Someone else? How do you create Vrindavan atmosphere?
Rukmini Mohan Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. We have deities at our place, Shri Radha Krishna, Shri Radha Kunj Bihari, and we also have Shri Gaunitai. So we have Mangala in the morning, and we have Tulsi Puja, and also try to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam lectures in the morning before going to work, and after coming back from work, can try to read some Bhagavad Gita of Srimad Bhagavatam, and so in this way we try to keep engaged in devotional service at home.
Yes, good. Yeah, deities like to hear the scriptures. If you read the scriptures, the deities they like to hear. And so if you're reciting the scriptures regularly, allow the deities also to hear. And are you able to get flowers for the deities regularly?
Yes, Maharaj. We have gardens at our place, home garden, and we get the flowers from.
Okay, very good.
Gardens.
Yeah, very nice. And of course, cooking also, offering to the deities going on?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
And do you distribute prasadam?
Yes, Maharaj. We also distribute prasadam. And we also distribute books.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. Okay, so creating the Vrindavan atmosphere, wherever you go, right? You can go anywhere. You don't have to just stay in Vrindavan or Mayapur. Wherever we go, we can take the holy name and we can be chanting, and we can be reading scriptures and create the Vrindavan atmosphere. All right? So we want to have that opportunity in our life, throughout our life. So, read the third paragraph of the purport, and then answer the following question. Right? This is the purport, must be purport, text 14. How does this passage relate to Srila Prabhupada? What features of his life demonstrated this? Write down a few words that you feel best describe the ideal temple in terms of the mood and atmosphere. No. What can you do to improve the atmosphere of your own home or temple? Write down any thoughts or realizations you've had during this brief exercise. So this is something you can each do individually. How does this passage relate to Srila Prabhupada? Text, the purport of text 14, right?
Can we try to answer, Guru Maharaj?
Yes. Someone like...
yeah, I like to try, Maharaj. Okay. So, essentially, wherever Srila Prabhupada went, he created Vrindavan wherever he went. So he brought the devotees together, he engaged all of them in devotional service of the Lord. He was translating all of the scriptures, beginning at 2 o'clock in the morning, all the way till the evening. He was meeting different dignitaries, trying to convince them about Krishna consciousness. So essentially, whatever he was doing was all related and centered towards Lord Krishna.
Okay. So his life actually demonstrated this mood, right?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Okay. And anybody else want to add anything in relation to question 1 and 2? I think it's okay. Okay, anyway, Prabhupada's mood and mission to create the Vrindavan atmosphere. And he showed it by his own example. He's not just, he would always talk about Vrindavan, and he would often say, I'm not here in New York, I'm always in Vrindavan because I'm thinking of Krishna. So speaking about Vrindavan and remembering the holy place. All right, and then question number 3. A few words that you feel best, the ideal temple in terms of the mood and atmosphere. Would someone like to volunteer there and tell me, just in their own words, what did you consider to be the ideal temple? Did you ever go? Did you ever find the ideal temple? I hope so. The mood and the atmosphere, very important. The mood, and you may have a big temple, maybe empty, and maybe dirty. Yes?
Shall I try, Maharaj?
Yes, please.
What should be that every temple should praise the mission of Srila Prabhupada, like Srimad Bhagavad Gita Bhagavatam, and in small temples, That should be the mood. And we should worship Radha Krishna, then Pashtatva, and Jagannath Subhadra. That is the atmosphere should be created amongst the general mass of people. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Prabhu. Yes, everyone should worship the deities. Anyone else like to speak more on the mood and atmosphere of the ideal temple? Yes, go ahead.
Maharaj, I would like to say that like the mood and atmosphere in Mayapur, especially after Mangal Arati, they will make all the newcomers, the guests, they will give them a beat, they'll ask them to chant one round, and then say loudly 3 Hari Bols, and then during the Arati ask them to dance. I think that is the very nice atmosphere.
Yes, yes, very nice, yes. That mood, getting people, introducing people to the chanting, taking care of the people, the guests who have come for Mangal Arati. Okay, thank you for that.
Teaching and book distribution must be the soul heart of that temple.
Okay, the importance of book distribution. Yes, book distribution is important.
Yashoda Mataji?
Yes. So, Maharaj, I think the mood should be of putting Krishna at the center of everything. Like, I go to Shri Krishna Balaram Mandir in Mauritius, and it's very simple. It's a farm community. We have Krishna Balaram, and all the activities are simple, but we can see how everything is centered around Krishna and serving Guru. So the mood should be that of putting Krishna at the center and serving him.
Okay. Yes, I know, in the past, in the old days, because our temple was pretty much supported by the devotees themselves, and we supported the temple by book distribution. And so when we would distribute books, it was really, get the money, you've got to bring in the money. And so people also sometimes come to the temple, they would sometimes feel that mood that we're trying to get the money, we've got to get the money and sell the books to the people to get the money, and that's not really the mood which you want to create in the temple. The people coming to the temple shouldn't feel that these people are just trying to get money. That's one thing you don't want to have in the temple. Money is important, but we don't want to create that mood that we have to get the money from the guests. Take the money. That's one problem which is there. It's less present now because we're more based on congregation. But in the past, we had that tendency. And as far as that mood and atmosphere, we want to see that the devotees are enthusiastic, and that the devotees also take part in the program. Sometimes you go to the temple and they have a program, nobody's there. Where is everybody? Oh, people are all in their own rooms or something, they're in their offices or something. They don't come for the program. So it's important to get everybody there, the mood there, that people are all taking part in the temple program, and when there's a class on, they all like to hear and they'll take part in it. So that atmosphere, that eagerness to hear, eagerness to serve, and the welcoming mood to bring people into the temple. In some temples you may go to and they'll ask you, oh, welcome, the new person, but then if they find out you're initiated, then they say, oh, okay, they're not very interested, you're already initiated. They can't they can't bring in a new devotee, so they lose interest in you. So these are some problems. What can we do to improve the atmosphere of your home or temple? Well, yeah, anybody like to contribute?
Ras Bihari Prabhuji?
Yes, Maharaj, basically build an atmosphere which says always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So bring everyone together for whatever deity worship we are doing, whatever bhoga we are making, whatever any prasadam distribution we are doing, whatever is there, involve everyone in the house and in the congregation also. So with that brings in bondings, namata programs, which are basically to bring in new devotees as well as to engage people. So this will help in binding people together and moving as a group, progressing towards spiritual goals as a group. That will also help.
Okay, yes. Bring the devotees together, just feel part of a family, develop like a family atmosphere in the temple and in the home also. It should be a nice, atmosphere that the family members all come. They like to take part in it. They're really into it. They enjoy it. They enjoy having kirtan together and discussing some scripture, a verse from the scriptures. Try to encourage people. Difficult.
I just wanted to add one point to what Ras Bihari Prabhu has mentioned, as well as what Yashoda Mataji has explained. I think it's also paramount that the leadership of the temple is able to orchestrate the resources by looking at what is the strength of each devotee, what is the nature of each devotee, and how can they, put all of these jigsaw puzzle chips together in a very, very collaborative manner so that they can all come together to serve the temple. I think that's one major leadership issue which needs to be strengthened and resolved today. If you look at some of the very, very successful churches, it's amazing because Krishna is explaining in the Bhagavad Gita about, do your work according to your nature, etc. And some of the churches have gotten it so correctly, how they engage the congregation and also how they are able to enthuse the newcomers into it. There are some case studies on this too. So I just wanted to share some perspective on this.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. That's a very interesting point you brought up. The importance of making proper use of our resources, recognizing the potential of people and engaging them according to their abilities. And sometimes we're very neglectful on that part, and we don't recognize some of the skills, that very, very powerful skills which people have. And they don't get the opportunity to use it in Krishna consciousness. We get sometimes very educated, scholarly people come to Krishna consciousness, and you ask them to clean the floor, you ask them to wash the pots or something, We don't recognize how to use them, how to engage them properly. One thing also I've noticed is that if you can get a team together, that really helps. It's not the work of just one leader, but you want to have a team, a group of people who can work together. And if you have a team, if there's a real feeling of team there, then people, they would like to be part of that team. That's something which I saw in successful temples. In a successful temple, it's usually there's a team there. There's a team of people who are working and they're sharing the responsibilities. It's not all on one person, but they share the responsibilities. And that lightens the burden a lot. It makes it much easier for interaction, to get to know people and to be with people, to be personal. Sometimes we have that problem, although we have a very personal philosophy, we tend to deal with people impersonally, even our own devotees. And other places, you were mentioning about Christian churches, I had the experience with Buddhist temples. The Buddhist temples can be very personal, and they're very caring and very concerned. People come, they're very nice, you know. You come to a Krishna conscious temple, no, there's no prasadam, no, you know, no, you know, you can't come in, no, you can't see the deities, no, no darshan. So many things. So we do want to be try to be really personal and caring, looking after people. And that begins with our own devotees. Looking after our own devotees is very important. So devotee care is also an important thing. Okay, I'll go ahead. Okay. So this is from Prabhupada's. Did I read this?
No.
Not yet? Okay. For example, Prabhupada said, my residence is at Vrindavan. That is the place of Krishna, where Krishna advented himself. So now I am in America, in your country. But that does not mean I'm out of Vrindavan. Because if I think of Krishna always, it is as good as being in Vrindavan. I'm in New York, in this apartment, but my consciousness is there in Vrindavan. Krishna consciousness means you already live with Krishna in his spiritual planet. You simply have to wait to give up this body. From Prabhupada's lecture on chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita, verses 12 and 13 in 1966. And some more in relation to the similar mood, Prabhupada talking about Vrindavan. Prabhupada said, my heart is always hankering after that Vrindavan. Prabhupada. Just like at Vrindavan, that is practical. Now, here I am sitting New York, a very great, the world's greatest city, so magnificent city, but my heart is always hankering after Vrindavan. And a woman in the audience says, yes. And Prabhupada said, yes, I am not happy here. And the woman said, yes, I know. So then Prabhupada said, I shall be very happy to return to my Vrindavan, that sacred place. But then, why you are? Now, because it is my duty, I have brought some message for your people, because I am ordered by Superior, my spiritual master, that whatever you have learned, you should go to the Western countries, and you must distribute this knowledge. So in spite of all my difficulties, all my inconveniences, I am here because I am in duty. So Prabhupada was describing his mode, the sense of duty, the order of the superior, the spiritual teacher, his order that we should distribute Krishna consciousness. And then another quote there, that is my personal convenience. If I go and sit down at Vrindavan, I shall be very comfortable there. And I'll have no anxiety, nothing of the sort, you see? But I have taken all the risk in the old age because I am duty bound. I am in duty bound, so I have to execute my duty in spite of my inconveniences. That is the idea. This is Prabhupada conversation, or Prabhupada lecture, 8:11. Okay? Oh, sorry, I go back. All right, so now we spoke about how see Vrindavan, like wherever you are, have the Vrindavan mood. Now we want to compare the material world and the spiritual world. And if you look through Bhagavad Gita, you can see in text 15 to 19, Lord Krishna describes the material world. It's described there, the main points. The place of birth and death, it's miserable, ignorant, and under the control of time. Those things we know. But then, Lord Krishna goes on, text 20 and 21, Lord Krishna describes the spiritual world. Now, there's only, I think, two verses, or two places in the Bhagavad Gita where Lord Krishna will speak about the spiritual world. So it's here in the 8th chapter, and then later on you'll get something in the 15th chapter. It's only one verse in the 15th chapter, and two verses here in the 8th chapter. So Lord Krishna describes the spiritual world, never annihilated, blissful, knowledge, no influence of time, supreme, unmanifested, and infallible. So in this way, you can see the comparison between these verses, the material world, and then the spiritual world described. And then finally, how do karmis, jnanis and devotees depart from this world? This is the final section of the 8th chapter. Text 24 describes the jnana yogi, and how he attains impersonal Brahmajyoti. And then text 25 describes the karmakandi, and how he goes to the moon planet, he goes up to the moon, but then he comes back to earth. And then text 27 describes the devotee who can leave the world at any time. For the jnani, he has to leave special times. The karmakandi, he's not leaving anyway, he's only going up to the moon. But the devotee, doesn't matter. Any time is auspicious for the devotee. Devotee is not bound like that. Jnana yogi, he has to be careful. But devotees, any time we can depart from the world. This is a final quote from Prabhupada here, from text number 27, purport. Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by the different paths the soul can take when leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in the service, and this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. So very powerful section there of the purport. Prabhupada said, devotee doesn't have to worry whether he departs by accident or by arrangement. He just has to be Krishna conscious. That's the main thing. That's the challenge. So, the first section of the 8th chapter described Arjuna's questions and Krishna answers. And then, how to remember Krishna. How do we remember Krishna? When should we remember Krishna? First, at the time of death, remember Krishna. Oh, okay, at the time of death. During the day, the rest of the life, don't remember Krishna. Only at the time of death, remember. Of course.
All the time.
Yeah, you have to remember Krishna all the time. And then we also have to do our duty, perform our duty. First business is remember Krishna and then do the duty. Then Krishna described Yoga Mishra Bhakti. We heard about chanting Om and meditation, how thinking of Krishna these different ways. And then Krishna described pure devotional service, Ananya Cheta Bhakti. Right? Constantly remember Krishna. Krishna said, I'm easy to obtain for one who is constantly remembering. And then we spoke about the material and the spiritual world, comparing them. Material world, temporary, full of suffering, under the control of time. The spiritual world, eternally blissful, full of knowledge, no influence of time, like that. And finally, we heard about the supremacy of devotion in attaining the Supreme. That simply by Krishna consciousnness, we can go back to Godhead. Doesn't matter whether it's by accident or by chance or auspicious, the day, maybe in the day, maybe in the night, doesn't matter. Maybe Ekadasi, it may not, doesn't matter. For a devotee, you will go back to Godhead. Krishna will take care. Just a purport here, text 29. If one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad Gita, especially these middle 6 chapters, in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifice, charities, speculations, etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. Okay, are there any questions? Anyone has any questions, any comments before we finish this 8th chapter? This 8th chapter is like a continuation of the 7th chapter. It's all clear, everyone? Everyone's...
There are 2 questions, one from Amarani Mai and one from Yashoda Mataji.
Yes, Amarani Nimai, Prabhu.
Maharaj, you told that if we think about the Lord Krishna, then we can go to Golok Vrindavan. This is also called as one of the Mukti Maharaj, as far as Bhakti is concerned.
Vimukti Smaran, remembering Krishna?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes.
He told that if we think of Krishna, we go to Golok Vrindavan.
Of course, it will depend on how we think of Krishna. It's not just think of Krishna, but there are different manners, different moods in thinking of Krishna. If you want to go to Golok Vrindavan, we have to think of Krishna in Vrindavan. And we think of Krishna in, in his activities in Vrindavan with the Brijbasi people. And so we should think of Krishna in the appropriate manner according to the destination you're trying to achieve. You want to go to Goloka, you have to think of Vrindavan and think of Krishna as a cowherd boy and Krishna with the gopis. Krishna's playing the flute, and he's got a peacock feather. He's not Dwarkadish in Vrindavan. There's a difference.
Oh, it's also called as Saulika Mukti. It's like that or what, bro?
Sorry?
It is like a Saulika Mukti, Saulika.
Swarupya.
It is not Salukya.
Swarupya. Well, if you want, that's Vaikuntha, Swarupya Mukti.
Oh, Vaikuntha.
That will be in Vaikuntha, not in Goloka.
Okay.
Yashoda Mataji?
Maharaj, my question is that we have to remember Krishna and also do our duty. But is it not that when we remember Krishna and do our sadhana properly, Krishna himself helps us to also perform our duties correctly? is it not that, like for Arjun, Krishna tells him to fight, thinking of him. Then Krishna gives Arjun so many help throughout, what to do, because so many things Arjun doesn't know, but Krishna knows. For example, about the killing of Jayadratha or anyone else. So I was just talking if Krishna himself will help us to perform our other duties also.
Yes, if we sincerely desire to serve Krishna, certainly Krishna will help us. Krishna says, I am the ability in man, right? And so, yeah, we do. We depend on Krishna. What can we do without the grace of Krishna? And Krishna says, from me comes knowledge, remembrance and forgetfulness. So everything is depending a lot. We depend fully on Krishna. But at the same time, we have to not just be lazy and think, oh, Krishna will do it, you know. We have to also, we want to give service to Krishna. We don't want to just take from Krishna. So we do have to make our own individual efforts there. And the more we may endeavor to serve Krishna, then the more Krishna facilitates. And the more Krishna provides. And Krishna said, Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham. I carry what you lack. I preserve what you have. And so we may be lacking something, Krishna can provide it. But we have to be worthy of it. We have to deserve Krishna's reciprocation in that way. And so it depends also on our surrender, our mood of surrender, the mood of giving service to Krishna. There is competition. Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala. He likes to serve the devotees. But devotees, they don't like to take service from Krishna. We like to give service to Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
So Guru Maharaj, there are no questions. His Holiness Bhakti Vigna Vinash Narasimha Maharaj ki.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki.
Obi Jai.